What is up, guys? Welcome back to the YouTube channel. I'm super psyched that you guys have tuned in for this one. And for today's video, as the title says, we are going to be hitting a dumbbell-only leg workout. I've given you guys a push workout with dumbbells only and same with pull. Now, the last one of the sequence is obviously going to be legs, and of course this is part of that push-pull legs split as I had mentioned in the first push workout. Again, you could either run it 3 days on, 1 day off, repeat that, or you can do 3 days on, 3 days on, 1 day off, then repeat that. Whatever works for you, whatever floats your boat and kind of coincides best with your schedule, do what you can and do what works for you. My best advice regarding that. With that said, if someone was coming to me for general leg advice in terms of like training advice and how to build really well-developed legs, my best advice would be to progressively overload with the barbell squat. In my opinion, the barbell squat is arguably the best exercise for overall leg development. Now, there are people who are going to say, oh, it doesn't effectively target your hamstrings, and albeit so, it's not the best hamstring exercise, but for your overall legs and your overall strength and your overall just leg development, barbell squat is where it's at. Again, people will disagree with me, and there will be many people that are on the same side as this, same boat as me. It's just different training philosophies, but regardless, not going to get too detailed into that. I just want to say that most of us aren't going to have access to that. And because of that, we aren't going to be able to sufficiently progressively overload with the weight that we're lifting, obviously. Some of you may. If you do, good for you. Do what you can and do, what you can with what you have. But the same thing applies to us with people who don't have enough plates to add onto the barbell, or people who don't have barbells and squat racks in general. So we are going to have this dumbbell-only workout really focus on manipulating a lot of variables, like doing supersets, changing up tempo, really adding some good appropriate volume. These types of things are things you want to consider when you are doing your dumbbell-only workouts. You don't want to just do 3x10s on every single exercise. Like, that can be good and it could be sufficient depending on how you execute it. But if it's just a simple goblet squat, you squat down all the way up just at a normal tempo, honestly, you will really quickly plateau unless you are a beginner. With that said, I'm not going to get too much more into the intro. I really want to get into this workout. I'm super psyched. Leg day is always my favorite. And so yeah, let's go get these gains. Alright folks, so as usual, we are going to begin with an active dynamic warm-up. Of course, we are going to be focusing on overall increased blood flow, lubricating and activating those knee and hip joints, as well as decompressing the spine, and of course just go for overall mobility. Again, these are similar trends you'll see throughout a lot of my workouts, going for overall increased blood flow, lubricating the specific targeted joints, decompressing the spine. These are going to be a similar thread throughout a lot of my workouts. And all right, for our first set of exercises, it's going to be a little bit of a pre-activation phase for this particular workout. We are going to be supersetting body weight tempo squats with elevated heel with dumbbell hamstring curls, lying dumbbell hamstring curls. We're going to be doing 3 supersets of 15 reps each exercise. So for the tempo bodyweight squats, we are going to be aiming for a minimum of a 3-second negative. If you do want to make it harder, go for 4 or 5 seconds. In addition to that, the heel elevation will help increase that quad activation. And this portion, these bodyweight squats, this is the part where you really want to focus on getting a really deep squat and moving through a full range of motion. This is going to be very important to prime the body for the upcoming exercises. And as for the hamstring curls, I just want to note, be very careful, guys, and make sure the dumbbell is secure between your feet. And my recommendation for that is, of course, go for time under tension. That's absolutely critical. Squeeze the hamstring as far as you feel tension. And then once you kind of lose that tension, once you no longer feel that tension in your hamstring, then that's the point when you want to start to descend for a controlled negative. And then, of course, repeat. And then, all right, next up, we have our main heavier movement of the day. It's going to be dumbbell tempo goblet squats. Personally, I did elevated heels as I do want to have a more quad targeted workout. So for this one, I went for a pyramid schemes of 3 sets of 15 reps on the first set, 12 reps on the second set, and then 10 reps on the last set. Now, of course, depending on the weights you have, you can manipulate this so long as you hopefully either increase intensity with each set or increase the weight or some kind of intensity increase for each of these sets. So bear in mind, this is going to be a very hard portion of the workout, even though it is only 3 sets. But if you do execute this properly, the entire workout will honestly feel like cardio. But anyways, for this one, we're going to be holding it at a vertical position. There's another way to hold it, which will be covered later. But for this one, you want to aim for kind of a tempo fashion, going for 3 seconds of a controlled negative, which is going to be much harder than, say, your 3-second negative on the presses and rows that we've been doing lately, because there is going to be a greater range of motion throughout this squat. So that's why it's going to be a lot more difficult, and it's going to feel a lot more like cardio. You're definitely going to be heaving and breathing hard. The movement is pretty much the same as the squat from earlier, except there is an extra frontal load, which will allow even more stress, more tension placed on those quad muscles. Now, I want to emphasize, try not to bounce too much and strive to keep your trunk upright and not rounded to the best of your ability. All right, next up, we're going to get straight into calves, and I did strategically place this right here because I feel like if we just add on calves at the very end of the workout, we're not going to be as energized, and we're not going to be focused on the calf muscles as much as, the upper quad, upper leg muscles. And for me, calves are something that I really need to work on, so might as well incorporate it either in the front of the workout or the mid section of that workout. So we're going to be hitting a tricep with these calf muscles. We're going to go for standing dumbbell elevated calf raises, followed by seated dumbbell calf raises, followed by standing elevated dumbbell calf raises again. I want you guys to go for 12 to 20 reps for each of these sets, and we're going to go for 2 to 3 total trisets. Now, for these exercises, I really want you guys to make sure you use something to elevate the ball of your foot so that your ankle can travel through a greater range of motion as you practice that plantar flexion and that dorsiflexion. Plantar flexion being, squeezing the muscle and kind of going onto your tippy toes. That's that plantar flexion, and the dorsiflexion is the reverse of that motion when your heels descend below the ball of your foot. So for the gastroc focus, being gastrocnemius, that's the more middle and higher portion of the calf muscle, you guys are going to be doing those standing calf raises. And for the best bet, you guys want to focus on squeezing at that peak contraction, that peak plantar flexion, and really get a good stretch at the bottom, where I recommend holding the position for maybe 1 to 3 seconds, depending on what feels best and what burns the most. As for the soleus, the seated calf raises are going to be the vehicle to grow these bad boys. So the way you want to position this, so this is going to be up to personal preference. How you position the dumbbell is up to you and what's comfortable for you. And for this one, try not to resist the tension with your arms or hands. Your hands are only there just to keep the dumbbell in place, and you really want to not really aid in the movement. Again, the same advice from the previous applies. Get a tight squeeze at the peak contraction, slow negative to the bottom, where you should hold the position for a moment, 2 or 3. All right, next up, we're going to transition back to upper thighs. We're going to be going for a dumbbell reverse lunge, and then we're going to superset that with dumbbell goblet squats. And if the reverse lunges are too easy for you, then you can go for a deficit by increasing the height on the front foot. But regardless, we're going to be doing 3 sets of 10 to 12 reps for each. Now, this is honestly going to be the hardest part of the workout. I know when I was doing this, as I had mentioned earlier, it's really honestly going to feel like cardio because your legs are the biggest muscle group in the body. So your heart is going to have to constantly pump blood in order to get that blood and sufficient oxygen to those leg muscles. So you're definitely going to feel like this is cardio, and you're definitely going to be breathing very heavily as you do this portion of the workout. For the lunges, as to how far you want to step back, it's going to be up to you, but I would firmly not recommend stepping excessively far back to the point where your lumbopelvic complex, aka your low back and pelvis, go too far back as if you were arching your back, as this could potentially cause harm. Again, you want to go through a full range of motion. You don't necessarily want to bounce your knee on the ground, as that may hurt you. Maybe barely touch the ground, or go for about an inch or so off the ground. As for the goblet squats, be extremely careful with this horizontal positioning. I did later on find out that holding it more in the entirety of your arm, as if you were hugging the dumbbell, is a little bit more safe and more comfortable. But as for this particular positioning, I did hold it on the sides of the dumbbell. If you do it in this fashion, be very careful. Make sure you have some kind of soft padding to cushion the dumbbell when you ultimately have to drop the weight. And of course, if this is way too uncomfortable for you, to the point where you're not even getting a good workout in, then
Obviously, you can just go for regular vertical positioning, but I thought it would be kind of a great variation for this, just to, mix it up and go for something different. All right, next up, we got some single leg dumbbell hip thrusts. We're gonna be doing 3 sets of 12, followed by 8 to 10, and then back to 12 reps. Main pointers here are the leg you are targeting, you wanna keep that perpendicular with the floor as best as possible, and you want to try to keep the angle between your hamstring and the calf muscle, aka that knee joint. You want that angle to be about 90 degrees at that peak concentric contraction. So I recommend placing the dumbbells in a comfortable spot on the pelvic thigh region. Use padding if necessary, and imagine you're pushing your foot through the floor as you squeeze the glute at the top. All right, and lastly, for the finisher, we're going to be doing a tricep for 3 rounds. We're going to be doing 20 reps alternating dumbbell jump lunges, followed by 20 reps dumbbell glute bridges, and followed by 20 reps dumbbell calf raises. Now, if the dumbbell jump lunges are too hard on your knees or you're too fatigued at that point, then of course feel free to do just body weight. That's certainly acceptable. And then same, of course, for the glute bridges as well as the calf raises. Go with what your particular training level is. So the most important part here is obviously keep controlled form, aim for 0 rest between the exercises, and really just focus on burning out those muscles as much as possible.
Alright guys, and that pretty much wraps up the workout. I hope you guys enjoyed this one. And just before I wrap this up really quickly, I just want to say I'm so sorry guys, I haven't uploaded this video sooner. I was trying to get that push-pull leg series out really quickly in a condensed period for you guys, so you can have some ideas as to how you should do your workouts at home if you have dumbbells during this quarantine period. So sorry about that guys. It is midterm season right now at UCSB online. So I've just been really crammed, really busy with schoolwork, and I had to adjust my priorities accordingly. But I am going to be kind of going back to that YouTube grind a little bit now that we're kind of getting away from the midterm season. And because of that, I'm also going to be uploading a video on Sunday. It's going to be a little bit of a surprise for you guys. If you follow my Instagram at CB317Fitness, it's not really a surprise. But if you guys are only following my YouTube, only subscribe to my YouTube, then you guys are in for a little bit of a treat, a little bit of a surprise, a little bit of a shock. So Sunday, stay tuned, 10:30 a.m. And yeah, if you guys like this workout, please give it a go, give it a shot. Let me know how it works for you. And really quickly, last thing I want to note for this workout, if you guys do eventually find that it is too easy for you, add more volume. That's the best thing that I did. And personally, I started off with this particular workout, executed all the techniques that I said in this particular video, and I was sore for a couple of weeks, but of course I did plateau fairly quickly, and because of that I started to implement more sets, more drop sets, and even more supersets, things like that. And that's the main thing you can do right now for your home workouts, is implementing these other intensity techniques, because the most important thing is progressive overload, constantly, gradually making things a little bit more difficult as you progress. But the point is that you don't always have to just manipulate weight. It's things like supersets, drop sets, volume, tempo manipulation, pyramid rep schemes, and power sets, rest pause. I mean, there's so many different ways to make your sets harder, and that's the main gist of progressive overload. So that's it guys. Really glad you guys tuned in for this one. Please leave a like, leave a comment down below, hit that subscribe button, turn on post notifications, and I'll catch you in the next one.